Hello, y'all. Look at me saying, I'm going to wait until next week to do a reading. So actually, I had an appointment today and that was canceled. So I thought, well, I'm here, I'm home, I could do a reading. And you know how I said I was going to do a reading on what people find attractive about you? That was my plan. But when I came in here and I started to do my protection prayer, it was like, we're going to do a no contact reading. And this is, it was like, oh, okay. So that's what we're going to do. Really quick, the other day I got a comment on one of my videos about my nails, about how my nails aren't done, and y'all, I thought it was funny because I think that, well, the person deleted it, and I don't know why, because the comment was, I always resonate with people who don't have a bunch of like bling on their fingernails, and I don't know, maybe they were being sarcastic or something, because I thought it was really funny. Because I have thought about that several times now. I'm like, man, my nails are janky, and I have anxious habits of like picking at my fingers, and I can't stand like long nails because I don't like to work with them or do things with them. I feel like it's just asinine personally. And so I've been thinking though that I would like to go get something done to them so that the nail polish lasts forever. Because one of the main reasons I don't paint my nails anymore is because it's like 2 days later, then the nail stuff is gone, and it irritates me because it's such an. I have enough things that I have going on. I own my own business. I'm a mother, and I do this, and then I'm a single mother at that. So I do all the things pretty much by myself. So like worrying about my nails is just not something that's like at the top of my priorities. So anyway, hopefully you can enjoy this reading sans pretty nails, okay? Hopefully you can get past it and, focus on the tarot. All right, so let's go ahead and do a no contact reading and see why this person isn't communicating with you. Here's group 1, group 2, and group 3. Group 1. Why aren't they communicating with you? I just heard because they're stubborn. Just very, like, that's exactly how it was. Like, the exact dialect of how I just said that was the first thing that came out about your person, is that it's just like they don't want to admit that they might feel something. Like they have a really hard time expressing their feelings, it seems like. It comes through as though it's sort of this, okay, it's going through these cycles of being in a space that's like, oh, it's just so, it's very prideful, honestly. It's really holding back out of principle more so than they don't want to talk to you. We're going to tap into energy first and get a read for who your person is. That way you know for certain that this is your reading and that this is how that person has behaved in this connection or is a representation of their energy. All right, what is the energy for group 1's person? What's the energy for group 1? This guy wanted to come out. Very closed off. What is the energy for group 1's person? It's interesting though that perhaps like they make, something that I heard the other day was that the ways in which oysters make pearls is actually when like something gets into their system that doesn't belong there, that it's not actually sand because that's part of their environment, but it's more so that there's something that gets in there that is sort of like a parasite or so it's interesting that your person may be somebody who really does a good job with alchemizing, like transforming into something, making something that's really gritty and hard to deal with, or a difficult time or pain, sort of blossom and transition into something that's beautiful. They're good at sort of learning their lesson, but also probably don't really communicate that much. All right, what else is the energy for group one's person, please? And then let's do, I think that's actually good. We'll do that, and then I'll bust out the next one for the wild unknown archetype. So yeah, the oyster thing, okay, so I don't know, it just felt like I was compelled to tell you about that. So it seems like this person has been through some things, but they don't allow it to keep them down for long. I think they might kind of wallow in it for a little bit. It might kind of close them off, or it has sort of put them in this space of sort of, they're not the type of person that's just gonna, what do I want to say? They're not going to open themselves up to just anybody, and they are certainly probably not somebody that has a whole lot of friends or a large friend circle. They're really kind of isolated in a sense, and also there's some hit here of them being not just isolated, but sort of unique, where there is something about them that kind of stands out, or this isn't sort of somebody that you meet. You can meet like 10 people and they kind of all sort of systematically behave the same, or they have similar qualities, or there's just things about them that are very similar. And then this person kind of steps into the room and it's kind of all eyes on them. They really are magnetic in a way where, and probably not even by wanting to be. They're sort of, they just exist magnetically. So they definitely are someone who, you know, it's like, it's interesting because there's this duality within them where it's sort of, they can chase, but they're so much more adapted to just sort of naturally attracting things just by existing. There is this sort of, again, it's interesting because they can go and they can kind of, they can be in this space of sort of like, they'll give to you, okay, but it's like quick intervals of being able to give themselves to others, especially if it's somebody that they don't really know and haven't really had a feel for. So they'll come in and it's sort of like they're just there and they're present with you, and then they're not, and then they just disappear. And so they aren't really they don't kind of stick around for long. They have this sort of fly by night kind of vibe to them, but it's weird because it's just a perception. I think I don't really feel like they're actually that way. It just is sort of this perception in how they interact with people where it comes across that way. And it's more so like they just give little bits of themselves to those that they do kind of interact with, and then they're just kind of, then they dissipate. So it can come off really inconsistent, and it can come off really cold in a way, but their energy isn't cold at all. So it's weird. I think it's just a guarded thing that they do. And it's also sort of a subconscious thing that they do. I don't think that they're super calculated. It's not coming through that way, where there's some part of their communication style that they're just not really that keen on or aware of. So, and there's also this sense that they had this situation or something within their past where they got really just like trampled over, sort of. I think it's with that, oyster card, and how I talked about building pearls, and that sort of process of alchemizing pain into beauty or into growth, into that sort of going through that cycle, right, of cocooning and then sort of blossoming into a butterfly, and it feels like they've done this. It feels like they've done this a few times. So it's been something that they just kind of go through it, and then they're really good actually at, very resilient person. They're good at sort of understanding the process of growth and knowing what they have to kind of sit through in order to rise above it. But that element of being able, or not just being able to do that, but the experiences that they had, they're really sort of not exactly the most present person when it comes to communication. And they're sort of more so, it's almost like a stoic vibe, or not even that. Like, I wouldn't say it's always super serious, but because I think that when you have their attention, I think they can be real playful and fun, and maybe even witty and charismatic, but it's just their attention span is really narrow. Okay, let's get you some more energy for this person, then we'll go into a reading on why they're not contacting you. Just a little bit more details on, okay, who is a group one's person? Ooh. Yeah, this is somebody who has no quarrels with sort of, what do I want to say? It comes through like shaking shit up, honestly, is the sort of vibe with them, is that they will kind of, it's interesting because there's something that this person is kind of laying the groundwork for, it feels like it anyway, that has them sort of teetering between these sort of kind of like between worlds thing. They're really good with their words as well. I would say that words of affirmation is likely this person's love language. They're very they're poetic. They could be even somebody who maybe writes lyrics or writes a lot. They are, or even just sort of their in nature, the way that they sort of operate is very poetic and very eccentric. And because again, they do stand out. They're very, they're sort of, they have this vibe that there's just not a whole lot of people like them. But one thing that they don't seem to quarrel with too much is sort of a part of this sort of transitionary process. This person would just like destroy an old version of themselves and move on, and everything that was with it. And I mean everything, as in friendships, and like they can walk away from anything, which is kind of scary. But I think that they do it. It doesn't feel like they do it sort of maliciously. That's not the feeling. It is sort of just, it's interesting because I think a part of them really might kind of shut people out a little bit too quickly in some scenarios, in some spaces. But for the most part, I think it's about just having very clear boundaries within themselves, and they are a little bit unwavering in that. Now, there is something about them that is sort of, I think it's softening. I think there's some part of them that kind of had hardened in this space of dealing with all this pain. And that sort of seems to be in this, they're going through kind of this part of this transition right now, or this awakening seems to have something to do with the way that they feel about themselves, or a way that they sort of have maybe came in and built into an awareness on their sort of absence of being able to soften in certain spaces. So they're really kind of they're a difficult nut to crack. Which is interesting because I actually feel, I keep hearing the word enigmatic, and I don't even know if I fully understand what that word means, but it just keeps coming up, and I kept pushing it down because I didn't want to say it because I was like, I know the word, but I don't know exactly what it means in this moment. And so, but that's a word, so Google it. That's a word that came up, and it came up twice, and I pushed it down, so it's apparently important. But I think enigma is like, isn't enigma as in something or someone that is, it's sort of difficult to put your finger on, right? And difficult to, there's just something, anomaly is something else that came up where there's something about them that is just really foreign, but it would be foreign anywhere, right? They have this just kind of one of a kind individualist personality, and I really don't seem very arrogant about it either. I don't even seem to have an awareness necessarily that their character and the things that they have been through and the way that they handle it is so unique and very, very beautiful energy, realistically. Definitely somebody that I think I would really recommend respecting, honestly. I mean, that's just how it's coming out, but we're going to find out. I don't know, there's some element of guilt within them, though, because I said that sort of just like from my own perspective, and I instantly felt like a guilt in the pit of my stomach after saying that. So maybe that was just, me kind of like throwing in my own perspective for a moment, but because there's some sort of element that they have guilt over here, or there's some kind of feeling of guilt. Okay, so let's figure out, why aren't they talking to you? Let's crack this nut open. How about, where are we going? Standard tarot. All right, let's figure this out. Why isn't your person talking to you? This guy wanted to come out. They're doing a little bit of healing. That's one reason. Spending some time fixated on some healing that they have going on. That's interesting. Okay. I'm going to pull out all the cards, group one, and then we'll kind of, that was more than I thought it was. I thought it was just one sticking out. And then we'll do the reading. Okay, so thank you. Okay, and then we'll clarify here, and then I'll pull out the bottom of the deck, and then we'll read for you. Clarifying the Hangman. Clarify the Eight of Wands. Thank you. That was very quick clarity. I like when that happens. Clarify the Five of Cups in the reverse, please. Thank you. Clarify that King of Wands. Look at him on his chair like, hey, baby. Oh, goodness. The King of Wands. Oh, boy. I just realized, y'all, I didn't notice this fell out, but I just want to bring this out. This had fallen out. The healer. We'll talk about that in a second. I didn't realize that. And you know what else just fell on the ground? Oh, the Four of Wands. You know, it's interesting. You know how that oyster came out with your person? There's a whole world inside that shell that I don't think you know about. Bottom of the deck, we have the Seven of Pentacles doing the work. Bottom of the deck, we have the Ten of Swords in the reverse. And I think that's where I'm going to stop with the bottom of the deck, actually. Okay. If we need to bring out more clarifying cards, we will. Interesting, though. So I have the healer on the bottom of the deck. And one thing I want to mention about the healer status and being a light worker is that in order to obtain that status. We have to have been through a lot of work, but we also have to have done the work on self in order to be able to heal others. You cannot be in a space of telling other people sort of how to work through things that you're still working through. It is that, there's a quote that is, don't compare yourself to don't be hold on. Don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle, okay? So this person is sort of in that middle ground or even higher than that in terms of healing processes. They've definitely been through it and they've worked through it, and they're really just being in their energy. I feel really comfortable in sort of my intellectual body, where I don't always feel comfortable in that space, but they really bring out sort of that part of me that is a little bit more emotionally intelligent and capable of sort of communicating at a higher level. Okay, so that is something that they kind of bring out, and I think they would kind of be someone who really finds it difficult to connect into other people. They have sort of that energy that is, this isn't somebody that you comprehend, it's somebody that teaches you comprehension. Does that make sense? They are in this space of healing. And sort of the space that they're healing is sort of this individual battle that they had with sort of just pushing everybody away, kind of, or anyone who came at them they were really combative towards, and just pushed away. And did so. There wasn't like, they didn't have a whole lot of patience with people, and it seems as though this was something that it would have felt really abrupt, where they kind of just abruptly cut people off, where they don't really give a whole lot of opportunity for understanding, or they were in this space. Okay, so one thing that they're working on in this absence of communication is they are working on their ability to soften a little bit, okay, to not be so harsh or so rigid or so I'm not going to say cutthroat, because I actually feel like there's compassion laced within their ability to sort of cut people off. It doesn't feel, it's interesting because the throat chakra starts to close off a bit. I feel like this person keeps a lot of their feelings kind of in check, where they don't say how they're feeling about something, and then, so they could have deeper feelings, okay, that they're feeling, but because they feel things that need to go sort of a specific way, if those things don't go that way, they'll just cut it off. And really rigid in that department, honestly. But they've built into awareness how this makes them sort of come off. And there's like this pit in their gut where they feel really bad about that. So if you're in this space of thinking that they don't feel guilty about how they've kind of behaved, that is not true. They do. They feel pretty bad about it. One thing that they do feel bad about, it seems that this person would have been the one who walked away from this situation, or it doesn't have to be, but it kind of feels that way. But they feel bad about that, about sort of turning their back on this connection. And the reason that they did this, or what they're kind of coming out of, I guess, is they have trust issues, big time. There's some major trust issues with this person. But the thing is they're really intelligent, so they sort of over correlate experiences, and they sort of compare a multitude of scenarios, and then they sort of associate and then disassociate. I hope that's easy to follow. Um, what I mean is they will compare present experiences to past experiences, and then and there's also they have a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of nervousness, they have a lot of anxious energy that I don't really feel. I feel like they keep it sort of to themselves a bit, but it's very there. There's a lot of anxious energy that they have, and they tend to get in their own way. So I think one thing that they're realizing here, honestly, it feels like but they aren't communicating on sort of the principle of that. There's some reason that there was trust issues that they had in this space, and aren't sort of they're kind of in this space of, well, I think they were in a space of sort of this internal dwelling, okay, this sort of hyper fixation on kind of getting in their own way. And it's really interesting though, group one, is they aren't talking to you because of, it doesn't feel like anyway, it's just not coming across that the reason they're not communicating with you is has anything to do with you. Is this it's interesting because this is really sort of a, this is a me problem kind of thing, and they're working on it. They're working on figuring out their sort of issue. Now, I will say that this is somebody who also kind of has that very, they could have been a pushy, okay, and impatient, and so they're kind of working on their patience. The one reason that they aren't communicating too is there is this little this sort of deciphering, or it deciphering? I don't know if that's the right word. They feel as though, well, it's interesting because it seems as though they felt that there was a potential for a um like a commitment here, or that's kind of disguised underneath passion, that for this person, they actually take certain sexual, well, I don't know. It could be certain, or it could be just they take sexuality, they take it very seriously. So this is not somebody that's going to just give you their body or be promiscuous, okay? That's definitely not their energy, which is interesting because they come off as the King of Wands. So they could actually present as though they're very sexual and very overtly sexual. But the way that I'm seeing it and the way that it feels is that no, this is only, I'm overtly sexual in certain situations and with certain people, but this is a part of me that not everybody gets to see. And for some element, it feels like this was a part of them that you did get to see. And there's this underlying purpose, or the underlying reasoning here is because they felt that this was something that could expand into more, and so they felt comfortable in that space. But ultimately, I feel like it actually was that element, sort of that passion, that kind of threw them off balance and made them then feel really, there's some kind of unstableness. Okay, there was some kind of space in which it's like, from their perspective, they felt like they were sort of giving into this, like they were giving in with communication. But also, it's interesting because it's I don't feel that they are or were super communicative actually, but it's from their perspective, uh, there was just some sort of imbalance or inconsistency where that really knocked them off balance, that made them feel unstable, made them feel anxious, made them feel like this was sort of, I don't want to say a waste of their time because I actually don't get that vibe. I really actually feel that this was a connection that they were really hopeful for, and had a lot of uh, but the song that just came in is Dreamweaver. Um, so how does that go even? Dreamweaver, I believe you can get me through the night. So um, there is this element to them that they kind of maybe fantasize a lot within this. And so by spending sort of all that time in this kind of in their head, they felt like, oh, like essentially that things had sort of occurred within feelings because of their sort of fantasy for the future that didn't actually occur. Um, and they felt then they just felt as though they were kind of fighting to feel seen in this connection, and it made them feel really unstable. And then they kind of, I don't know, they just went into this space that was okay, obviously I have some work to do on myself, and sort of just backed off. They were and here's the thing is that even if it didn't seem as though this really bothered them, because I really get the feeling that you wouldn't really know how much this actually did bother them with that sort of Ten of Swords. This did cause them quite a bit of it. I don't even think it's necessarily pain. I think it's more so it caused them to kind of really like dig deep into themselves and look at themselves more authentically and look at kind of the choices and decisions that they made in this connection, and sort of being in this space of, you know, these swords that are in their back. It's interesting because it doesn't really feel like those were swords that were provided by you. I think they kind of just feel like they stabbed themselves in the back, honestly, is the vibe that I get. So it seems like they just felt like, oh, if I had kind of been in the space of having wished they knew what they learned from this connection before entering it, and it's being kind of presented to me that that's not how this works. So the things that they learned within the connection were actually intended to be learned from this connection because uh, otherwise they wouldn't have learned them. If it had kind of gone a different way, then it would have been it would have been kind of in this space of repeating a cycle, but not even that. It would be in a space of not doing the work that would need to be done in order to come into union within a connection in a more healthy way. So the interesting thing about your person, group one, is that they are really capable of awareness. Like they have quite a bit of self-awareness, and it's not a very common thing. So let's see if I can get you some advice on kind of what you're anticipated to do within this situation. Um, if anything, you know, I don't know if there's, it kind of gives that like right person, wrong time vibe. I'm not gonna lie. Sorry, there's like a hair on this. I shed like crazy. Okay. What is the advice for group 1 in this connection? This guy wanted to pop out. What is the advice? What is the advice for group 1? I'm going to go second row already. I'm not going to do that. Clarify the Page of Swords in the reverse. Clarify the Fool in the reverse. Clarify the Knight of Wands. I don't know this guy wanted to come out. Clarify the Three of Cups. And then on the bottom of the deck, you have the Nine of Wands in the reverse. Okay. What is your advice here, group? Well, one thing that I think you just automatically that's coming through group 1 is to get right with spirit. There's something about, I heard this actually in a reading earlier, is that if we are in these connections where there isn't sort of some, or where there is an absence of faith or an absence of a relationship with God or spirit or universe, or however it sort of resonates into you, that, oh, how did she word it? She said, where did that car horn just come from? She worded it like, oh, that this is that when someone doesn't have a relationship with outside themselves that they have faith into, they're moving from ego and are so full of themselves that they can't see. I don't know how she worded it. That sounds like really the wrong way to say, but essentially it was going, we are moving from our ego if we are in a space where we don't kind of believe in the magic of life or having this relationship with God. And I don't want to plant seeds because I know that not everyone kind of resonates into God. I spent, I don't even know how long, like 20 years as an agnostic who had very strong opinions about religion. I used to be so hateful about religion, honestly, and now I pray to God every day. So I think that, and I can say for me personally on an individual level, that is really when my life began to, I don't know, when things just became more clear, I guess. I don't know. Where are we going with that? I'm not sure. That was just because the crown chakra was really kind of out of balance here. There is this sort of, okay, so the advice here is to quit searching for something more, okay? I don't know what that means here, but this Eight of Cups that's in the reverse under the Page of Swords in reverse, it gave me this hit of somebody kind of always, like, never being satisfied is the vibe here, okay? Of not being, things just aren't good enough. This isn't good enough. That's not good enough. Being very rigid, I guess, in sort of, and almost too selective and too sort of nitpicky about what we want and how we want it and how it needs to be, and kind of understanding that when we behave that way, we're going to receive people who treat us that way. And so kind of getting out of this space of, yes, I think it's okay to have boundaries and I think it's okay to have standards, but it is kind of making sure that our standards are in alignment with our standards for self, and that there isn't sort of a lot of finger pointing in a way where it's kind of looking at someone else and seeing them as the whole problem as opposed to looking inwards. Because your person here, group one, is very capable of looking within in themselves, and they feel really bad about their choices and decisions. Now, I obviously don't know what happened in this situation, but I tend to know that toxicity is a two-way street, and that if there's one person behaving a certain way, then two people have behaved a certain way. Okay. So it is making sure that we are reflecting on self. It is also, before we go kind of, what is it? Seeking greener pastures, we water the space that we're in, right? There is this element too of not kind of impulsively jumping towards words of affirmation, or specifically words of affirmation, or not being in this space of sort of fixating on that in particular, of this like words of affirmation, and not recognizing action, or the action that someone puts in towards their effort towards you, and fixating on needing to sort of hear, kind of needing to be validated through words without really providing that in return, or providing that as well, but sort of being in an expectation of it. And it also is something about sort of impulsively kind of jumping into that space with no regard, yet while being rigid in other areas when people aren't being sort of, it's really kind of, it's weird because it's something about chasing love bombing a little bit is how it comes off. Some other advice here is, there is sort of this hit here that it's quite possible, group one, that there's actually more than one person in your energy in this moment, that there's more than one person who's interested in you, or that you have been sort of, there may be two people that are kind of in your awareness, or that you've been sort of dealing with or have interactions with. And it's sort of going, okay, what is this hit here of like one person will come in with very like, or it could just be the duality of this person, I guess, but it doesn't really come off that way. But there's sort of this advice that utilizing discernment between, kind of using I guess better judgment is a sort of a hit here as well, of kind of knowing that it's sort of, how do I say this, is that there, so this person maybe would have came off sort of in this Knight of Wands energy, okay? They would have came in sort of like hits of passion, and it would have been really surfaced, okay? Or it could have seemed that way. And then there was this moment where this person sort of came out with like some pretty clear boundaries that kind of came down or came in, or this communication, or this very like rigid sort of this part of them underneath. But I think it was in this space of oh no, it just comes out as this sort of absence of appreciation kind of for what they were providing. And there's this other there's this advice here too about using your discernment. It's okay, so there may have been something going on with this connection where we had sought kind of external influence of some sort and not really used intuition, our own intuition on making a choice. So maybe going to a friend for advice and they kind of helped you write out a response to this person. And so then technically what was being said was realistically your friend's perspective and not your perspective. And therefore, these words that kind of came out weren't really authentic to what was being provided in this space, and not moving from our own intuition and allowing our own intuition to guide us on how we should respond, because that's actually more natural and more authentic to who you are. And the influence of those around us can actually really harm a connection, especially if they're coming in without, sometimes the information that is being provided to an external resource is really one-sided, and it's also that person automatically has a bias to you, without knowing the other person. So they're going to be a little bit more rigid than you would necessarily be to somebody that you have a deeper connection with or that you've been communicating with. And so this sort of hit of advice here that came in to sort of give someone a message, or this kind of helping with wording kind of thing, or the influence of sort of gossip in a way, or just kind of venting to a friend and the friend's perspective sort of infiltrating our opinion on things, really having a major impact on this connection. And to stay outside of that and to allow your own individual intuition to help you guide how to communicate in the future, if there is communication in the future. Because right now, what it seems to be is this person is definitely working on themselves. And I feel like from their perspective, I feel like they had been communicative at one point. And I think that it's coming through as though they don't feel as though the effort they did put in was seen or understood or appreciated. And so they kind of were in this space of, really like overall part of it is, being in this space of all this groundwork that kind of had been laid down in this connection, if there was any realistically, is now kind of at square one. It's almost as though were this to start up again, y'all would have to start over and kind of clear the past, or clean, start in a clean slate. But as far as how they feel emotionally, I mean, it does seem like there was some feelings here, but I think honestly, it just feels like it just got kind of fumbled a little bit in allowing sort of our insecurities to take over and have a say, All right, group one, that is your reading. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment down below. I love to hear your comments. It's I love to read your comments. It's one of my favorite parts of my day. And if you can, turn on notifications so that you can be notified when there are new videos, as I don't currently have a schedule quite yet with this channel. Thank you so much for being here, group one. Enjoy the rest of your day. wonder if anyone just plays these all the way through and it's like, what does this girl do? She don't edit. She just goes, takes breaks, and lets it play through. You're right. I'm unhinged. Sometimes clear out that energy from group 1, although group 1's energy wasn't too bad. Group 2. Why aren't they communicating with you? Let's find out. Well, I think right now what it feels like is your person is, I just want to say that moving into group 2's energy, okay, it's not the same as it has been previously. So there's a lot of heaviness in this person's like heart space, especially in the back, on like the upper back or like middle back. There's a lot of like burden within this person that they feel like they're just trying to kind of get a balance on things and kind of trying to balance out their life is sort of the vibe that is happening right now. I honestly, group 2, to be fair, I don't feel like this person is too kind of connected into this. I think they're so, I don't know, they're in this space right now of just dealing, I guess, is sort of the vibe. But we're going to get into some energy on your person, find out who they are. That way, then you know that this is the person for you. The person for you. What is group 2's person's energy, please? And then we'll do the reading as to why they are not communicating with you. Just going to say really quick, group 2, your person does have a disconnect with the crown chakra. That is coming through pretty immediately. I do feel compelled to bring out this, a couple different cards. I didn't do this many for group 1, but these were on the bottom of the deck and they just came out, or they just kind of felt like something I was supposed to bring out for you. Okay, let's see. All right, group 2. What is your person's energy, group 2? I don't know if you heard that. That was like my stomach or something growling. They're not really that, I don't think they're very comfortable in having faith. It's interesting though. You know what's interesting about your person is that there's this hit that they really could do really well actually with things that would be like spiritual work. That actually they would pair really well with this, but they're very disconnected from it. They're also disconnected from sort of flowing with their own they're very kind of stagnant in a way. They feel kind of stuck a little bit, which is interesting because the cheetah is there, so it's kind of like they're it's weird because there's also this part of them that I don't know if it's necessarily a mask or there's just like healing going on kind of within them that they are trying to like emanate out towards others, or they're trying to at least kind of chase the feeling of. So chasing, you know, I just got this hit of chasing highs. So it's kind of surface level. These kind of deeper emotions that they would have or that they do have, they kind of avoid a little bit. They're not really diving deep into themselves. they're staying very sort of buoyant, I guess. They're staying above water a little bit. And I keep hearing that song. I don't know the name of it, honestly, but it's like, on some high, chasing what I don't know. It's a new song. But it keeps like that one part anyway, where it's like I've been on some high. I'll just keep chasing what I want, or chasing what I need, or something like that. So I'm just gonna, I swear, every time I think I can get out of a certain collective, I get pulled right back in. And so I gotta say this as just a trigger or a disclaimer, that I could be talking about someone who has struggles with addiction, and that part of their the chasing high is like literal, because they are sort of weathering this storm. Like, they're going through something. They're going through this process, or this transformation, and I think they mask it with humor, honestly. I think they mask it with sort of wit and this charisma to them, that they come off really even kind of aloof, or like they don't really care. But I think they do care. They just don't know how to show it. It's like a mask, honestly. But they could come off like really witty or funny or sarcastic, or just have this sort of charisma to them. I think that part of maybe what kind of reels people in with them is that they're kind of funny, but it's kind of a defense mechanism a little bit, because they have this sort of ocean of emotions underneath, and they're not really they're really good at avoiding them, which has kind of probably caused them some problems, probably knocked them a little bit off balance. And so I think right now the reason that they're not communicating with you could be because they're trying to bring that into balance. They could be trying to bring their emotional body, or spend a little time there. But as far as when you've been dealing with them, they definitely do tend to avoid their emotions quite a bit, and they kind of chase highs. Now, there's various forms that we could be, various things that we could be addicted to, even if we're not, somebody who dabbles into sort of, things that are illegal. There are other highs that we can chase that are legal, that would still kind of fall into that category of not really being able to sit with themselves or sit with their emotions too much, unless it's a good emotion. They just kind of want to always be. It's interesting because it's like they always want to be happy, or kind of in this space of just like being playful or charismatic or funny, but actually they're really serious underneath all that. So they have a really serious side to them, and I don't think that they're not even really that great at hiding it, realistically. It doesn't seem like, it doesn't feel like at least not energetically, it doesn't feel like this is something that they would, I don't know, they might be able to hide the burdens that they have, because it is sort of kind of stuffed down in terms of like the energetic vibe here. But also, I feel like I had a way better time, it was not a better time, excuse me. It was way easier for me to communicate my thought processes in the energy of group one. And so that's something that does kind of come through here, is that they do have a little bit of a hard time sort of communicating anything really beyond a surface level. They're very, very surfaced in terms of how they communicate. Okay, let's get into additional energy on your person, and then we'll do a reading for you on why they aren't communicating with you. What energy do we have for group two's person? Yeah, they're very closed off. They kind of keep all those emotions inside. Not somebody that is easy for you to understand. And I think they kind of enjoy that, group 2. It's kind of like if, I just got this hit of them kind of feeling as though that's the only thing that makes them interesting. They're really self-deprecating, or like they would be the kind of person that is really, they kind of maybe struggle with negative self-talk a little bit and come really down on themselves and really sort of beat themselves up for maybe the way that they behave, or the just insecurities, or just a lot of individual self-doubt. But it's interesting though, because there is this vibe of like there's something they're waking up to, okay, within either this connection or just in life in general. And it could be waking up to this reality that they are like so closed off emotionally, and they are difficult to read, or they're not even difficult to read. They're sort of difficult to understand, difficult to connect to. They're just kind of, like, it's interesting because they're deep, but they give this sort of presentation that their emotions are like a teaspoon deep. It's kind of like they give off this vibe as though they just really don't care. But I think it's just because they have cared so much that there's some element of them that just, they kind of went through it to a certain capacity that it kind of forced them to stop caring a little bit, as though they just got broke in a way, where something broke them to the point where they just kind of shut everything out altogether. And there seems to be this kind of teetering between understanding that a little bit. It's at the infant state. Oh, is it? Okay, so it does. Sorry, I just went to say that, and then I got this hit that was like, no. So it is being presented to me that they are aware of this. Actually, they're pretty aware of their they're kind of very self-aware, honestly. And it seems like they have actually a lot of control over themselves. They have a lot of self-control. A lot. They definitely sort of, but at the same time, it's as though they just won't do certain things because they feel like, what's the point? Honestly, they just are really, they just don't have a lot of faith, and that's maybe part of why that hit of them being kind of disconnected from the crown chakra came in, because it's like they don't have any faith in anything realistically. It's they really have this sort of pessimistic vibe to them a little bit, group 2, where they are kind of seeing life like this, and this isn't worth my time, and that's not worth my time, and what's the point of doing that, because I'm just gonna, I think they've been sort of disappointed so many times that at this point they're just kind of, it almost feels like they're just kind of used to being disappointed. So at this point they just gave up trying, or gave up committing to anything, or gave up putting in any effort because they don't feel like it's worth it. Definitely is somebody who's been through quite a bit. Okay, let's figure out why they're not talking to you, group 2. All right. No? Hold on, let me figure out which one I'm supposed to use. Okay. Guess we're going this way. This is the OG. This is my second standard Rider-Waite deck. Okay. Nose starts itching as soon as I get into your group 2. So they do think about you quite a bit. Every time I have that come in, it feels as though I'm supposed to now start communicating that when the nose is itching, it's like someone's thinking about you. And automatically that's like something that came in pretty instantaneously. So they do spend a lot of time thinking about you. All right. Hold on. Oh my goodness. I swear, I think that there's issues with communicating here. Why isn't group 2's person communicating with them? Why is there no contact here from group 2's person? I really don't feel like I worded it that way in group 1. I don't know why. It just feels like I just worded that incorrectly for some reason. It's like it's backwards almost. I don't know. Why isn't group 2 communicating? Okay, let's clarify the Six of Swords. I'm going to go ahead and bring out all these cards. And then I'll do the reading for you. Clarifying Justice. Clarifying the Six of Wands. Clarify the Three of Wands. Clarify the Eight of Wands. Bottom of the deck, Tower, Three of Swords in reverse, and Death. So your person actually could be contemplating a new beginning, honestly. Okay, why aren't they communicating with you? Well, honestly, group 2, I think what they're not communicating to you is that they actually do want to move towards this. But there's some element of, this could work two ways, okay? So there's some element of them wanting to be in control of this situation because they maybe have felt like they were like they weren't in control of it. Or it could also be that they're sort of trying to, I guess, manipulate an outcome. And you know what? Let's actually clarify this Devil card, please. Clarify the Devil for me. I'm not a huge fan of the Devil card, and I know that they know that, so clarify the Devil for me, please. This one? Interesting. Okay, so there could have been, I think it seems as though what they're kind of moving away from is maybe this like Devil card with all the people here was them kind of moving into a space of, or moving away from kind of dealing with a bunch of people, or just having a bunch of people in their energy, or maybe a bunch of people sort of clouding their judgment. They're sort of kind of going their own way a little bit. I don't know, it's just something that maybe you don't know, or that perhaps there was a situation in which there was a lot of people that kind of were involved and maybe sort of infiltrated this connection in some way. I don't want to say that there was infidelity or something like that, because if there was, I really feel like there are just some things that are really difficult to come back from and really difficult to forgive somebody for. So I definitely don't want to be in space that's like, if somebody cheated on you, to be like, oh, they are, you know, thinking about moving on from that. Well, I don't know if it's, let me just, you can take this with a grain of salt, okay, group 2, but I know that there are certain people that I love to the capacity that I could never look at somebody else when I was in a relationship with that person. Or even connections that I've had. I've had connections where there was no commitment, and I was only focused on them, and I was only communicating with them because I felt like they were the one that I thought was worth it, and I didn't want to really involve other people or waste my time on other people. It was essentially, if I wasn't communicating with them, I was okay not communicating with anyone. I was okay waiting it out. And it was because I cared about them, and I had this compassion for them, and I would not want to be I didn't want to be in that space on the sort of other side of, the other end of things. So I didn't do that. And so from my personal perspective, someone who loves us and someone who cares about us, they literally would fight for us before they would ever look outside of the connection. And that's like, somebody who can hurt you to that capacity is self-motivated. And I don't know. Here's the thing, and that's just, I think that applies more so to how women operate, because I do want to say that it's typical anyway. If a woman is cheating, it's because she's not in love with her partner, and she's not attracted to her partner. When a man cheats, it's not the same, okay? So there is that element of things. Sometimes when a man cheats, it is far less about that. In fact, a man can cheat on someone he loves, actually. So take that with a grain of salt, but I don't even want to talk about infidelity realistically, because for me personally, that is, I think, one of the hardest things to come back from. Anyway, okay. So where they're not talking to you too is that they're feeling a lot of guilt in this scenario. And not even just guilt, but they're feeling, it's sort of, well, okay, so there is one element of guilt, but also they feel like they were stabbed in the back. There is that element as well. Kind of in this space of, there's a little bit of self-righteousness coming in a little bit. Yeah, where it's interesting because there's an air of arrogance a little bit here, group 2, where they kind of see themselves as like the one or the chosen one. And so they haven't even really done any deep reflecting on this, or they're not doing any deep reflecting on this, because they feel like, in fact, it's interesting because, like I said, there was all these like deeper emotions that they need to figure out, or that they have within them, but they're not doing it. They're not doing that work. They're not contemplating on it. They're not working on their shadow. They are sort of, well, okay, so they're kind of informing me that that's not all people within this collective. There are some people that they're coming out of it, okay? They're coming out of this contemplative mode. They're coming out of having done the shadow work, and they're coming out sort of, and so then the Six of Wands is more so them coming into sort of, it's like to come get what's theirs, okay, what they feel belongs to them, and that they kind of laid down the foundations and they have actually done some of this work. That's one aspect as well. But use your own discernment on how this person has operated with you, on whether or not you feel that that's somebody who's actually gone in and sort of sifted through some of their deeper emotions. And either way, sort of this, what they have done here. Now, okay, I just said the other day that I couldn't stand seeing, I didn't say this like in a reading, but I said it to myself, was that I was so tired of seeing tarot readers be like, they're going to deliver a message. They're delivering a message. They're delivering a message, because it seems like there are so many titles like that, and there are so many readers are saying that over and over and over again. And it's like, okay, so at what point are they going to deliver the message? Because it seems like they're not going to do that. So I'm kind of I'm kind of annoyed a little bit, because there is this element of, even though they're not talking to you, they really want to talk to you, and they really want to come in sort of as this King of Swords. They want to come in as this sort of it's like they want to put an end, honestly, to not communicating. They want to come in like gallant almost, and come in with this truth and honor, and they come get what's theirs. And it's sort of the interesting thing about the traditional King of Swords energy and the traditional King of Swords deck, that I swear it always gets missed within readings, is that there are butterflies on this King of Swords chair. Like, this is somebody who went through the transformation process. They went through the cocooning. They went through the muck. They alchemized their some sort of glory from pain, and have kind of went through that process. Or this is something that they really want to see happen for themselves. But it's interesting, because it's almost as though they're kind of holding themselves back from communicating, because realistically they feel like, I don't know, it's almost as though they've kind of done this comparison, and they feel like nothing's sort of adding up to this connection that they had with you, or this space in which they had with you. And they, moving out of this heartbreak that they may have felt in this connection. Now, there is the Tower, though, on the bottom of the deck. So either this is an indication that there's some sort of Tower moment that went in with them. I do have the Ten of Pentacles on the bottom of the deck as well. It's something that they could really want, sort of this ultimate abundance with you, is something that they're not communicating to you, or that maybe they're working on in the sort of background. Let's clarify that Tower. Oh, okay. It was like, I know what you're gonna ask. Okay, hold up. Interesting. Okay, so the Tower moment had something to do with their intuition guiding them. And I think it was that, okay, so it's kind of as though there was this moment where they couldn't really see things from this like more all-encompassing perspective, and then they had this hit of, yeah, it was almost as though they were really influenced somewhere outside of this connection, or distracted into something outside of this connection, and then had this sort of intuitive hit. And then now they're like, oh crap, like, I want to start over. I want to have this new beginning. I want to fill your cup so you can fill my cup. I want to bring in this sort of balance within this connection. Okay. Ooh, I have the Lovers here too. Y'all, okay. There is, okay, so as soon as I pulled that out and I had that sort of excitement, I did hear, like, just make sure that, this isn't too good to be true. There is, I'm going to get you advice, actually, so we'll just move out of that. So why aren't they communicating with you? I honestly don't know why they're not communicating with you, group 2, because it seems as though they really want to be communicating with you. So, if they're not communicating any of this, I would say it's clearly fear-based. And, there's one element too of them sort of perhaps not following their intuition, and that's why they're not communicating, or that this is sort of the underbelly of all their feelings. But they do want a new beginning with you. So at this point, it's not about whether or not they want to communicate with you. It's kind of a matter of when are they going to communicate with you, if they're going to communicate with you. So it's not really telling you kind of, I mean, unfortunately, it's not like, why aren't they communicating with you? Because when you read the cards and it comes out, it's sort of like it's like they feel like they really want to. It's just they need to bring this kind of imbalance a little bit. And I don't know, I don't want to be one of those expect a message from this person, but you know, they very well could communicate with you realistically. Okay, let me go into your advice here on this situation. What is the advice for group 2 on this situation with their person, please? What is the advice for group 2? Interesting. Wow. Clarify the Ace of Pentacles. Clarify the Page of Pentacles. Clarify the Page of Wands. Interesting. Clarify the the 4 of Wands in reverse, please. I just heard not to sell yourself short, group 2. Queen of Swords in the reverse. Bottom of the deck is the World. Oh, jeez. I just went to just... this came out in the reverse, too. Your advice. Okay. It seems as though your advice in this moment realistically is, okay, so there is some kind of cycle, okay, that how you would have operated in previous situations, how you would have been in this space, the way that you would have felt surrounding sort of communication, anxiety, the approach that you would have, that you, that if you were in this situation in the past, you would have operated in, okay? In this moment, it's sort of embodying you to slow down and really process that and sort of see what's kind of, is this person realistically able to provide you the 10 of Cups? Are we sort of seeing a Page of Wands as a 10 of Cups? Are we seeing sort of a Page of Pentacles as really the antithesis of that? This is, well, one thing it is embodying you to do is recognize that these are really slow steps that need to be taken, and that to move into baby steps. There's this other hit too of recognizing that it's sort of this, it's not like keep yourself available, group 2, but it kind of is. It is more so of going and recognizing that there's more to be offered either here in this situation or in general. That there's more that could be offered to you, to make sure that we aren't sort of, that we're really balanced in terms of what's being presented to us and how we respond to it. Understanding kind of how reward-based systems work, okay? We're not going to reward invalidating behavior. So if someone's sort of breadcrummy, we're not going to reward them by, giving into that sort of behavior. We're not going to do that. Just not going to do it. And also being in the space of sort of having there's one element too of, okay, when we're building into our boundaries, let's make sure that we're not being too rigid, too sort of cutthroat, too, I don't know why insulting came up a little bit, but where we are kind of being soft but stern, okay, is one element here as well. And understanding that that sort of nature, as you know, specifically as a feminine energy, is going to help you kind of move into this more fulfilling spaces within certain connections. And also getting out of the space of sort of fighting, really moving into acceptance, okay, in certain spaces and with certain people, rather than sort of, you know, definitely moving out of, if you kind of resonate into an anxious attachment or a chaser, definitely embodying you to get out of that space, to slow down, to really process these connections and understand, that oftentimes it's actually slow and steady wins the race, allowing that, you know, to be kind of led in that direction, or to move that way, that these baby steps build a bigger future, okay. And also, definitely remaining in this space of, I wouldn't say it's inviting you to sort of entertain a whole lot of energy, but being selective is more the vibe here, where it's kind of, yes, you know, give attention where, you know, kind of energy flows where energy goes, right? Give attention where there is attention being given to you if you so wish, but also be very selective. Don't just kind of be, if you're in this single phase and in this like space where it's kind of, how do I want to say this, as though it's just like going on a whole bunch of dates or talking to several people, and recognize that your time is the most valuable asset that you can provide another person. And so if you're just kind of wasting your time because you're bored, there are a million other things that you could be doing than just communicating with these people. And plus, we don't want to be in spaces where giving attention could lead to situations that we then don't know how to get ourselves out of, and we're building our own kind of karma by, you know, how we operate in these spaces with people that we're maybe not realistically interested in, but we're just kind of wasting time. So being really selective with how we're communicating in this space of connections, or being selective maybe in this connection and how we're communicating with them, and really being patient on our responses, and patient of how we communicate, if we are communicating with this person, or when this person does. Oh, that's right, we're doing a no contact reading, I forgot. Thank you, ADHD. So, you know, if communication does come in, sort of really processing that, and not just kind of rushing into communicating with this person. Give them a little little swat on the ass or something, I don't know. Or whatever, you know. Maybe more than that realistically. But another thing too, group 2, is just don't be waiting around for someone for the possibility of somebody to communicate with you. Go live your life, do your thing, focus on building your worth, start a new beginning, outside of this or within yourself, or, you know, just get out of that space of dwelling and kind of hanging on to this past energy, and you know, not being able to move on from it. Definitely step outside of that and step in and pivot away from that, and find something that you can distract yourself with, and not even distract yourself with, find something that you can utilize to help you heal through whatever's gone on here. Okay. All right, group 2, if that resonated with you, please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. The comments are one of my favorite parts of my day. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. Group 3. No contact. Why isn't your person contacting you? Man. All right, group 3. So right off the bat, your person does feel a little bit, how do I want to explain this? They're a little bit cocky. They're a little bit yeah, you know what is interesting is I kind of see this Knight of Cups, and at least in this reading, as I'm kind of sitting up on a pedestal, and I really feel like they need knocked down a peg, group 3. I'm not gonna lie. All right, let's get into Mr. Knight of Cups energy. What's going on with this guy? So what we're going to do is we're going to get energy for your person, and then we will, that way you know if this is the right reading for you, and then we'll get into why they're not communicating with you and advice on that. I'm going to pull out this guy because it wanted to come out. Ooh, okay, I'm not going to pull out that many because like several flew out. One more for group 3's person, please. They're really, you know what is interesting, group 3, is your person has this sort of feminine energy to them a little bit. Actually, let's do one more because I wasn't expecting the sea serpent to come out in the reverse up. All right, I'm going to put, oh, I have the elephant too. Oh, are you just like coming out with it? Okay, maybe they're arrogant for a reason. Okay. All right, group 3. Look at group 3's person, like, and you were saying, okay. Okay, so right off the bat, this is somebody that is, they're a leader. They're not a follower. That is a hit that's coming through with them. There is like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it's, okay, so here's the thing is I said that, and it felt like, it's like they want to be that. And it's interesting because they have the capability to be that. They really have the capability to sort of be in a leadership role. But for some reason I said that because that's how it came through. And then this like kind of nervousness came in with it, where it's almost as though they don't actually feel that comfortable being in that space. They definitely are somebody who walks off the beaten path. They are sort of, if everyone went left, they would go right. And I don't even think it's like not out of like spite. It's not out of spite. It's just they're so unamused with the way everyone else is going. It's like boring to them almost. They are somebody who's really wise, and they take up a lot of space. Like, this is not somebody that they're kind of somebody that everybody wants to know, and I don't feel like this person seeks out relationships too often. You know, it's interesting. Maybe that's why they're in sort of this Knight of Cups energy, that they might be teetering on sort of stepping outside of their innate space, because this is definitely somebody who it seems as though people sort of just kind of I don't want to say adapt to, I think that's the wrong word, but they're just charismatic. Okay, Maybe that was like the charisma. But you know what? I think they have some kind of an awareness. They kind of know they're cool. You know, I think that they know a little bit. They know that they're different. Okay, I just think that they maybe struggle with sort of that confidence a little bit, or struggling with accepting it. But they know a little bit. They are really deep. They have a lot of depth to them. I don't know why I'm seeing somebody in combat. So maybe they were a soldier, I guess, or that could be another way that they've had a lot that they've kind of fought through is another hit here. But I'm specifically seeing someone sort of like army crawling on the ground. So they're really a fighter, they are someone who is, they like to be they like to be lighthearted. They like to kind of, I'm getting like, it's interesting because they are very serious in one aspect, but I don't think they like to take too much too seriously at the same time. And they are sort of moving in this space of, what's interesting is that this person could actually be someone who is really connected to a spiritual path, or connected to God, or having that sort of life path in them. I don't feel like they're really disconnected that much from spirit, or disconnected too much from their crown. I would say they're more so disconnected in the third eye space, where they maybe be kind of rigid in their beliefs a little bit, but they do have a connection sort of with faith. Now, one thing that I think about them that kind of does come through a little bit is they may have, as much as they have this depth and they have this sort of, these are, other than the wolf, okay, the other creatures around them are kind of slow moving, and the other one is sort of, just moving aimlessly, right? But there is kind of this, it's interesting because they're immovable until they want to move, and then when they move. I don't know if that makes sense, but they're very stoic. Okay, they're very much they are in their power, I guess, and in a knowing, and they don't really move too quickly for anybody. But when they are ready to move, they can, I guess, like pounce. I don't know how to explain it, but there's this sort of this kind of like duality within them. And also they're very observant, very observant. If they do have that military background, that might be something that kind of comes in with them. I am seeing like these like piercing blue eyes. I don't know if that resonates in with anybody, but like very like sharp eyes too. I just heard that realize. I don't know. Do you know what I'm talking about? Very interesting. Okay. Let's move into more energy for your person in group 3, and then we'll get you those readings. What else can you tell me about group 3's person, please? Yeah, it's so interesting, right? Because I was like, they definitely are somebody who's really, they have a good, solid relationship with, spirit or God. That's like a Tower card. Okay. I'm not going to actually bring out all of those. We'll keep this guy out because it came out first. Interesting. I'm just going to bring out this shaman on the bottom, because I do feel like this person is sort of really wise. I do get that hit from them, is that they have a lot sort of, the interesting thing though is they do keep a lot to themselves, okay? They keep a lot sort of, while they have this depth to them and they have sort of this, they're deep. They have a lot of emotional intelligence, okay, group 3, but they keep it under wraps a bit. They do kind of keep it locked up. And not because, okay, it's sort of this vibe of it's you it's like a rite of passage almost to get past this sort of mountain, I guess. Because they're not going to show all their cards right away. They're not going to give all of themselves completely unless they feel safe to. Or unless they feel it's worth it almost. It's more so that vibe, realistically. It's as though they feel that they would... I don't want to say that they're calculated because I don't think that's the right word here. I think they could probably come off calculated, but they feel more intellectual. They feel intelligent. And so I think that it's more so they know exactly what they want and what they're looking for. And it's kind of like that vibe. However, there is this storm brewing. There is this tower moment. There's something going on. You know, perhaps I am seeing sort of like the scales tipped. So maybe there's something within this connection that kind of knocked them off balance that maybe they were anticipating, or something kind of came in that they feel is imbalance within this connection. It could be either one of those ways. I will say with them coming through as the shaman, to me, the shaman is a really wise and spiritual energy. This is like sort of a God-fearing energy. This is the healer energy. And typically healers and light workers and those on this path have done the work, or are doing the work. And are then you kind of move into the space when you've done it of really utilizing discernment on who you let in after that journey, or going through that journey. So here's that vibe to them a little bit. Are we going with the light seers? Yeah. I instantly looked at the light seers deck when I was going in to figure out what we we're going to do for group 3's person. Why isn't group 3's person communicating with them, please? Oh my gosh. Are we going to really bring out all of these? I swear it's always like one group that it's like all the stuff wants to come out. Clarify the King of Pentacles, please. Clarify the 8 of Pentacles. I'll get all these out for you, group 3, and then we'll go in. Oh my goodness. Okay, not so many at a time. Clarify the 7 of Wands in reverse. It's interesting. I really feel compelled to bring this out and this, because these all came out for that clarification. And I saw that 3 of Swords there, that 3 of Cups, and it was like, no, that's a reason. So High Priestess in reverse, please. This guy actually. Death in the reverse. And the Lovers. Clarify the Lovers for me. And then I'm going to bring in this on the bottom of the deck is the Fool. Why aren't they communicating with you? Hold up, I just had a card fly out that was like, I want to be here. I'm going to bring this out. This Queen of Wands is on the bottom of the deck as well. So is the Queen of Cups and the 4 of... Okay, hold up, hang on, hold up. Hold up, y'all. Okay, because also on the bottom of the deck is the Queen of Cups and the 4 the Four of Wands, which is like the Union card. Interesting. Okay. Why? Let me take a drink of water here really quick, because this is more cards than I've had come out for any other reading. My water bottle sounds so weird. Okay, what is going on here? For group 3's person, why aren't they communicating with group 3? You know, it's interesting, group 3 is it's almost as though they're just kind of working on their own stability. It's as though they're just working on things that they need to get done, or working on things that they need to worry about. Now, there is sort of this, it's interesting because I don't know if they're weighing their options a little bit or what's going on. There's a lot going on with the Seven of Wands in the reverse. So you have the Nine of Swords in the reverse, the Three of Cups, and the Four of Cups. And to me, this is, so the Seven of Wands in the upright for me would be, well, it's interesting because it reads so differently in different decks. And so like in traditional tarot, it is sort of, well, from my perspective anyway, it's sort of like, it's being in this space of like, how do I word this? Of using the past as sort of a way. So it's like putting in all these foundations, okay, having all these sort of burdens that we have like kind of stuck into the ground as sort of these characterizing or these characteristic traits within self, and we're willing to fight to maintain that sort of character, right? But in this, it's sort of, it would be the opposition of that, then sort of letting go of that. In this deck as well, I always see this as like there's only one sort of wand that we would allow to let in. But in the reverse, it's as though there is sort of, it's sort of this clean slate vibe of kind of starting fresh and being in this space of sort of looking at life and sort of kind of celebrating into that. There's this friendship vibe here a little bit, group 3, with this Three of Cups, more so than it would be kind of other energies, but there is sort of this like leaning on friends, moving out of this space of inner turmoil, which they had been in for some time. However, there is sort of this one hit that a part of this is something within this this space and this period of time came because there was this sort of disconnect from seeing what is in front of us. So we're kind of moving into this space of really being present in what's in front of us. Why aren't they communicating? They were in this space of sort of, they were going through some healing, okay? And so they're kind of in this new beginning phase of life, this new beginning of you know, building their own stability and building this thing, building things that they need to work on within self, and getting out of repeating cycles. There's something within this connection, or maybe within how they operated within this connection, that was sort of something that they had maybe a place in which they had been before. And I would say that then now they're sort of moving with a little bit more passion towards life, a little bit more passion towards chasing what they want and chasing what feels right, kind of moving into that space. It's interesting too, because one thing that they are building into awareness, honestly, group one, is that they would really fight for a connection that they felt was worth it, or that they felt was a companionship. So it's interesting because you have these sort of cards underneath here of them not communicating, but there's one element here of them really wanting to communicate, honestly, of wanting to sort of take that leap forward. And if it's not that, then it's then that they're sort of leaping forward into this kind of new space. But realistically, I feel like they see there's a lot of passion here. There's a lot of fulfillment. We have the Queen of Wands, the Queen of Cups. There's quite a bit, with the Four of Wands here as being sort of that union card and that coming together. This is sort of that twinny kind of vibe, right? The twin flame card is typically what they call it. That you can take with a grain of salt. So interestingly enough, group three, it's almost as though they kind of were, it seems as though they may have been working into a space to get into where they would be able to kind of fall into this better. But I am going to say that they don't have, this isn't a chasey vibe either. So it's a very fluid vibe here. There's a lot of feminine energy in this read, quite a bit. There is a hit on the heart chakra though, a little bit. So I do feel like this person does have some work to do on sort of the emotional body, or at least their sort of connection within their heart space, and kind of opening that up a little bit. But I don't think that's going to be a huge, really big problem for this person, because there is the Queen of Cups here on the board, and there's the Hierophant as well. All right. Let's get you. Oh my goodness. Doesn't it feel like that really answers why they're not communicating with you? Because honestly, I don't know, it just kind of seems as though they needed time to kind of work through some of this, or that they want to communicate with you. And just aren't, or this is something that, I feel like you'll be able to kind of decipher it on your own and figure out, maybe there is a possibility, there is one possibility that they are kind of just embracing life in this moment a little bit. Maybe doing a bit of manifestation. And I do have the Emperor down here and the Magician on the bottom of the deck. What is the advice for group 3 in this connection? Oh. What is the advice for group 3 in this connection? It's a lot of cards. Clarify the Two of Swords. Clarify the Wheel. Clarify the Ace of Swords in reverse. We have the Fool on the bottom of the deck. Oh my gosh, there's this dang nose itching. Typically, I just said this in a group too, that the nose itching was like someone thinking about you. Your advice here is really okay. One thing is to sort of stop closing yourself off emotionally, to stop like holding yourself back from really feeling emotions and connecting into this space. One thing is to get very connected. You know, your person really comes off as someone who's very spiritual and very connected into that way of life, that pathway. And it's almost as though you're kind of being embodied to also make sure that you are remembering your spiritual path and, you know, connecting into that space and really giving time to that part of your life. And, you know, maybe through prayer or meditation or any way that you can connect in to faith outside yourself, that's really going to help you to kind of get out of your head in particular. Because this is sort of being in this space of, it's just this conflicting energy within self, and you know, laying down the groundwork to sort of get out of these sort of repetitive thoughts and this, you know, it's very interesting as though your sort of advice here has nothing to do with the connection. All of these cards are someone by themselves. This is really like your thing to work through here in this space. And then I feel like when you work through that, then you can kind of bring in, you know, a connection like how this kind of represented in group 3 is like the first part of that, some of those like more union cards. Okay, this is getting out of this space of really moving into a space where we're using our intuition surrounding communication and boundaries, and getting out of this sort of rigid state of thinking that may be holding us back or getting in the way of these connections, starting a new beginning, of getting out of this space of holding on to the past and holding on to this pain that got us into this space, and not trusting anybody is another hit here as advice. And really kind of understanding that healing is a process. There's something to heal through within this space, some sort of lesson to be learned, and you are intended to learn the lesson. You're intended to go within and heal, and go within and focus on self, and that'll get you anyway. If you're kind of in this, if you tend to be sort of an anxious response, and you tend to chase a little bit and get really kind of off balance when you move into this sort of state of anxiety within a connection, this is kind of inviting you to work on that, inviting you to go in within self and heal that part of yourself, so you can have a union and not feel anxious in it, or feel like burdened or uncomfortable or closed off in this in the heart space, or in your back especially. There's a lot of heaviness there. Moving into this state of you know, kind of moving out of this I don't want to say this space of, well, it could be kind of looking at things sort of logistically or analytically rather than intuitively, and using intuition to sort of guide us a little bit more on getting out of this pain that we've felt from the past, and moving in with new choices and this new awareness through some healing. And you are being expected to really dive into the unknown of this sort of healing journey, or this aspect of self that you haven't really tapped into yet, or given yourself the time to really move into. There's some sort of rigidness, okay, that comes, that isn't, you know, it's very much an invitation to soften a little bit, group 3. Yeah, so that's the advice that I have for you. And it seems as though, group 3, regardless of whether or not this person is communicating with you, your advice here is to really focus on your own healing and your own sort of the things in which you need to sort of soften within self, or still have some mending to do within self to get us into a space where we feel more comfortable in certain connections in certain spaces. Okay, group 3, that is the message for you. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe to the channel. I love reading your messages. The comments are one of my favorite parts of the day. Turn on notifications so that you can know when new videos come in. Thank you again so much for being here. Enjoy the rest of your day. I almost said namaste. I might start saying that. I don't know. Enjoy the rest of your day. Namaste. Have a good day, group 3.